I want to begin by just briefly introducing myself. A lot of you guys probably know me from YouTube, or some of you have read my book, but really I am a person who struggled deeply and fiercely from narcissistic abuse. I used to consider myself a codependent, and I clawed my life back. Actually, I wouldn't even say back. I clawed my wife. Ooh, that sounds horrible. Well, I did not claw my wife, no. I clawed and fought in my own life to find out why I keep falling in love with the same type of people that are so hurtful. It wasn't until I realized that the solution is not to talk about what happened to me, although it's really important to find people that are empathetic and understanding. But the solution was to find out what was my responsibility in it. There's no excuse for someone hurting another person. Don't get me wrong. But until we discover our role in this problem, what I call the human magnet syndrome, we're not going to solve it. And that's the problem that I discovered with so many therapists, is they don't really know what codependency is. And at best, they become Band-Aid therapists. It feels good to talk to them. They give you plenty of empathy, but when it comes down to it, they never get down to the depth of the problem, which is the wound. And so I dedicate myself to that discovery, to the understanding of why we keep falling in love with people that we believe are our soulmates, but really actually end up being, as my dad would say, our cellmates. Today's presentation is just a snapshot of my 6-hour presentation that I give entitled The Human Magnet Syndrome, the Codependent Narcissist Trap. But if you weren't interested and you like the whole live vibe, I have this 5.5-hour video, or I recommend the book. I'm not going to be talking about, I'm only going to be talking about a sliver of things. So if you want to get more information, you can go to YouTube, or you can go to selfloverecovery.com, where I have these full-length seminar videos. To understand codependency, or what I call self-love deficit disorder, you have to understand that it is just a symptom. It is what I call a 4th-generation symptom. So if you go to a doctor and you say, your skin is always in a rash and it's kind of peeling and cracking, and they give you lotion, well, you might think that that's the problem. But what happens if you have a metabolism issue? What happens if you have cancer? What happens if you have diabetes, but the doctor only sees the symptom? Well, then you're not going to get healthy, and you will be hurt. And in some cases, it could have a horrible impact on your life. This codependency thing, if we're going to understand it, we have to wrap our arms around that. It's not what we do. It's not our behavior. It's not how we treat others. It's not how we let people treat ourselves. That's the problem. Although that's the symptom. It's the deeper levels of it. So I created this pyramid. At the very foundation of anyone who has self-love deficit disorder or codependency, they have experienced attachment trauma. They had a narcissistic parent, a pathological narcissistic parent, who was conditional in the way that they took care of them. They were more than likely neglectful, abusive, or depriving to anyone that got them mad, disappointed them, or didn't meet their narcissistic needs. So at the very core of self-love deficit disorder, codependency is a dissociated childhood with trauma. And most SLDs, codependents, they don't remember this. It's unconscious, it's disassociated, it's repressed. From attachment trauma comes core shame. And this is, I would say, 50-50 conscious. Every SLD I know can tap into their core shame. They can access, I'm just a bad person, no one loves me, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not interesting enough, I'm not tall enough, I'm not short enough. It's just fundamental, it's a feeling, it's a belief that you are flawed, that there's something wrong with you, that the only way that you can be loved is by molding yourself into a person who can take care of another one. From the core shame, which is 50% conscious and 50% unconscious, comes this pervasive feeling of deep, aching, pathological loneliness. It's this excruciating feeling of existential void. Every SLD knows this. This is the feeling that you get if you leave a relationship, if someone leaves you. It's the feeling you get in between relationships. It comes from core shame, and it comes from attachment trauma. That loneliness is so deep and so severe, it's debilitating. And you all know, if you can identify with the diagnosis of self-love deficit disorder or codependency, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So how do you get rid of this pain? Well, if loneliness is being alone and feeling like you're a broken person, then you have to be with someone else. So what happens is that person, the need to be in a relationship is the drug for which you are medicating the pain of loneliness, the pain of core shame, and the pain of attachment trauma. So when you meet the narcissist, who in the beginning, more often than not, is gorgeous, beautiful, sexy, intelligent, charming, the sex could be off the charts, incredible. You don't fall in love with a narcissist because he or she's bad. You fall in love with them because of the chemistry kind of lies to you and makes you think this is something special. It goes away. So in that sense, this SLDD thing, this codependency thing, is an addiction. The relationship with the narcissist is the drug that takes away the pain of the loneliness, the shame, and the trauma. And then we have the person who is a selfless, compulsive caretaker who habitually attempts to control others into loving them. Codependency isn't the problem. It's the trauma that caused it. It's caused and rooted in this experience by being raised by a parent who cannot unconditionally love the child, to see the child for her inherent worth, her inherent beauty, independent of what she looks like, independent of what she does. The narcissist parent can only love someone if that person makes them feel good about themselves. And that's the difference of a sociopath or psychopath parent, where they really can't love anyone and have no empathy. So every person who identifies with being codependent or SLDD has the same story. One of their parents was a pathological narcissist. And of course, because of the human magnet syndrome, the other, if they had another parent, of course, were raised by another parent, that person was codependent. So what I like to do is I like to come up with like analogies and metaphors to make complicated things a little bit more easy to understand. So I came up with this idea of vitamin L deficiency. So vitamin L is what I call vitamin love. So we know, in the field of medicine and science and research, that a child needs essential vitamins before they're born, and early in childhood in order to grow up to be healthy adults. So if a child doesn't get vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, there's going to be major medical or biological problems. Well, the same thing is with the experience of unconditional love. I call vitamin L. If a child is born to a pathological narcissist and they only get this vitamin L, unconditional love, if they have to do something to prove themselves, if they somehow make the narcissist happy, if they can be that beautiful little princess, that handsome little prince, they can be the smart kid, the quiet kid, the kid that cleans up, the kid that takes care of mom. Whatever that kid has to sacrifice, this child who's born to this narcissistic parent and codependent parent is only given small dosages of vitamin L. And so he's going to grow up metaphorically with adult problems. So, back in the olden days, there were pictures of, men with bow legs, or knock knees, or, parents, who came from, another country didn't have access to medical care or vitamins, and these kids were born with these deformities. Well, this attachment trauma is a deformity of the spirit. It's a deformity of the of our psychological heart.
Can you help with what I'm feeling? Can you help me understand this pain? Can you help me gain my freedom? For I'm trapped, I just can't resist. I hate to love this narcissist. I need to find the help to fight what's killing